Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, and we actually got a lot of news to talk about. This was a really busy week in the world of TNA, and I thought about doing a middle of the week episode, and I was just like, you know what, Moose being on NXT, I don't know that that warrants. I don't know that that warrants like breaking news audio. I was like, I'll save it for Saturday. And then the Hardys get announced that they're returning. I was like, I don't know. I mean, like TNA and TNA and NXT work together all the time. I don't know that that also would warrant a breaking news audio. And then Elijah signs, and then the colognes are there, and more and more just kept happening. I was like, well, you know what? We'll have a good episode for Saturday morning. So here we are for Saturday morning on Brace for Impact, and I was looking at like the top five stories, and I was like, I bet we have a good top five this week. I try to do at least five, and we do have a good top five, and then we have some like side stories that we will get into, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into the top story, and I want to thank the folks in the chat. What's up, Josh? Big Josh, afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well too, Josh. And Lucha Doncic is in here, absolutely. And swig of coffee for the signing of Elijah. I can't bash Elijah because that's my son's name. I love that name. And that was I actually got to pick the name. Typically dads don't get to do that stuff. So so I actually got to pick the boy's name. I just think that's a cool name. Always have. But first, let me yeah, we'll talk Elijah. So top story, I think anyway, is the signing of Elijah, and it wouldn't have been like that big of a surprise because he just seems like the type of guy that TNA would sign, right? Charismatic guy, used to be over in WWE, not all that great in the ring, honestly, like extremely basic in the ring. I would compare him to probably LA Knight without the explosiveness, but a big jacked up athlete, looks exactly like Macho Man Randy Savage. A singing wrestler that like at one point was a hugely over star in the WWE. Because Vince McMahon always liked the singing wrestlers. So he got really over in NXT, and then he made his way to the main roster back in the day. Actually, I got here. I'll just kind of read some of these notes that I put together. But former WWE superstar Elijah, previously known as Elias, has officially signed with TNA Wrestling and made his debut on February 20th live episode of TNA Impact at Full Sail University. The announcement came from Fightful Select after months of speculation about where. Well, I wouldn't say months. After some speculation about where Elijah would land following his WWE departure in September 2023. His debut was dramatic during TNA World Champion Joe Hendry's Encore Championship concert. The Colognes, who also debuted, Primo and Epico, who are, I think, going by their real names of Primo and Orlando now, interrupted, looking to ambush Hendry, and just as the odds stacked against the champ, the lights dimmed and Elijah emerged with a signature guitar in hand. He teamed up with Hendry for an impromptu musical performance before TNA Director of Authority, Santino Marella, booked them in the main event against the Colognes. Elijah sealed his debut with a tombstone pile driver, pinning one of the Colognes. Yeah, I don't know which one either. For the win alongside Hendry. The signing squashes earlier rumors linking Elijah to AEW or Ring of Honor, especially after a cryptic vignette he filmed with the Righteous, a group still tied to AEW ROH, surfaced on February 3rd. The mystery remains unsolved, but TNA clearly won the race for his talents. Suck it, Khan. Elijah, a 9-year veteran known for his walk with Elias catchphrase, brings a unique blend of charisma and in-ring ability to TNA's roster. I don't know about the in-ring ability. His arrival signals TNA's aggressive push to bolster its lineup with recognizable names as part of their 2025 resurgence. For Impact fans or TNA fans, this could mean fresh feuds. I don't know about that either. And a potential revival of his musical persona in TNA's unpredictable landscape. What's next for Elijah? We'll be watching closely. Yeah. So I made fun of AEW when Dave Meltzer, which man, he is that guy. I am a fan. Okay, let me just say, I'm a fan, and he and I are friendly. But boy, has that guy taken some L's lately. I think Elijah just posted that thing with the righteous as just a way to kind of get himself over online, because that was not that he clearly, the video, if you watch it, is the righteous's video, and he just kind of like interjected himself into the video. So I don't think they filmed a new thing together. I think that he just kind of interjected himself into it, and posted it and thought it was cool and was trying to get people talking. And when he posted that, everybody's like, "Oh shit, he signed," and I was making fun of it. And I'll be honest, a lot of people that are AEW fans, they rolled their eyes at first, and then they're like, "Oh, you know what? But he kind of makes sense with the righteous. Maybe that'd be kind of cool for Ring of Honor." Like they talked themselves into it. Those same people, JD, those same people are making fun of me right now with Elijah being in TNA. Y'all can kiss my butthole, every last one of you. Now, the big difference is the righteous is a bottom of the card act, right? They're not a pushed act. Elijah debuted in TNA with Joe Hendry, the world heavyweight champion. So they're pushing this guy like a top star. And I got to be honest, he debuted, and that fucking place treated him like he was a mega star. It was almost like The Rock showed up. No, okay, not quite. Okay, that's probably a little strong. But he came out. That place came unglued, and they were singing "Go Walk with Elijah," and it was like he had never left. And he looks like $1 million. But the guy, here's the problem with Elijah, and here's why I had a problem with it, because we just lost Speedball, right? We just lost Josh Alexander, Kushida, Trent Seven, several others, and they're all great workers. Okay. Now we need more charismatic guys on the card that have the potential to be stars. But we just lost so many great workers, and we're bringing this guy in, and there's a reason why, despite the fact that he was as over as he was, they never stuck with him. It's because he's so limited in the ring, he can't go. Right now, we saw him in the tag match this week, and he wasn't bad at the tag match, but and I believe that they're eventually going to get to Elijah versus Joe Hendry, right? Where that is, I don't know. I hope it's not Rebellion. Maybe Unbreakable. I am not sure. I think Unbreakable would be better for that, because I think that there'd be a huge WWE presence there. But okay, either way, the guy can't hang in a main event match, and that's why he never got pushed to that level in the WWE. I'm not saying that they would have ever pushed him to the main event, but like, he was never even pushed in a major singles feud to have a big match, because they didn't trust him to be able to go. He was feuding with Kevin Owens, and they did not trust him, even with Kevin Owens, to have a good match. And that feud was pretty funny, honestly, with him having like him leaving and then him becoming his brother, Ezekiel. I think it was Ezekiel. So Elias leaves and he comes back as Ezekiel, and Kevin Owens is like pissed about it. That was a funny feud. But they didn't even trust him then, and like they kind of just like let him go shortly after that, because they realized just how, like, once you get past the singing shtick, there's not a lot of depth to the character, at least in WWE. Maybe they could unlock something here. They have done that with other talents before, where they were able to take greater risks and bigger chances, with some of those former WWE guys, and they were able to unlock some stuff. And I don't want to run down the list of people that's worked for, but there's probably an even bigger list where it didn't work for, right? So here, but I don't have anything against them bringing him in. Okay. I don't think it's a good idea to bring him in at the top of the card, which is what they're doing. And I'm not going to do spoilers right now. I'll do some spoilers at the end of this episode. We'll talk about some spoilers. I typically don't talk about spoilers, but I think we'll talk about a few at the very end of the episode. I mean, after we get through the Impact Report, I'll talk about some spoilers coming up for Sacrifice. But he is involved in the top program on the next PLE, and it's one of the biggest that they've ever done. In fact, Io, my boy, DM'd me, and he said he thinks it's probably going to break the record for the biggest attendance ever for a TNA Plus special, and I think he might be right. We'll wait for Dobby to do the count and do the report on that and the estimations, but I think he might end up being right. And so if that's the case, we're bringing this guy in who's this severely limited performer, clearly popular. Okay, clearly popular, but once you get through that, once you get past the shtick and it gets old, and you're outside of Orlando, it's going to be a test to see if it carries everywhere else. Again, it did for a while on the main roster. He was over everywhere, right? He was a big deal for a little while as a gimmick, okay, as a gimmick, and then the bell rings and he's got nothing. Okay, now he has been doing the indies for 2 years, right? So he got released in September 2023. He's back on TV in February of 2025. And it's not like he's just been sitting around resting on his laurels. The guy has been getting out there and working a lot of the indies. So I got to give the guy credit for that. Like, I can't stand when these WWE guys get fired and they just sit and wait to get back to WWE, or they'll sign directly with TNA. That a lot of times that doesn't work out because you realize that they're just using TNA as a springboard back to WWE. This guy actually went out and worked indies, so I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. I have not seen a single indie match, so I don't know if he's actually improved at all. But if he's going to be here and they're going to push him as a top guy, he's got to be able to do at least 15 minutes in a match in a main event, right? And 15 minutes is me being fucking generous. Okay, that's me lowering expectations for the guy. Now, again, what I saw this past week was wholly inoffensive as far as what was in the main event, and he was extremely over. In fact, he's the one that got the hot tag in the match. Joe Hendry got his ass beat. He hot tagged to Elijah. That's signaling to everybody that Elijah's the guy that they're trying to get behind this year. And we'll see. I fully expected by the end of the episode he would have turned on Joe Hendry. Let me see. I think Lucha said it in the chat. Oh, okay, my mouse fell asleep. Yeah, he's evil Joe Hendry. I assumed by the end of the episode he would have hit Joe Hendry with a guitar, and that would have been your match for Sacrifice. But that did not happen. And so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Lucky Charm in the chat. What's up, brother? Josh, probably a contract to the end of the year. I don't think the length of the contract has been revealed. But they do like 6-month contracts, but I don't know. Like, if you're him, I don't think that he has a path back to WWE unless it's like for on these special occasions, like how they bring out the Boogeyman. And I think the Boogeyman's a good comp. He's better in the ring than the Boogeyman, but the Boogeyman was a one-note joke. And that's ultimately what Elias became, was a one-note deal, right? And those guys you can bring back every once in a while once you get past their initial push, but they're not sustainable characters because there's not a ton of depth. Unless, of course, like I said, and I'm going to give TNA a chance, unless, of course, TNA is able to unlock something in the character that creates depth that makes you coming back wanting to see more. But as of right now, they did the same shtick that he was doing back in 2022 in NXT. Okay. Josh, I feel like we need people like Darius and Michael Oku, and along with these well-known names, strong wrestlers with potential. Well, Darius was on the taping last night. He's actually he's got a lot of buzz around the AEW and WWE too, but at least that sometimes these wrestlers will leak to the media that WWE is interested, and they're doing that as to get leverage on a company that they actually feel like they have a chance with, right? So I don't know anything about Darius, but I know a lot of people like the guy. Well, he was on the taping last night, so let's see. Elijah is a good dude to get a pop, turn on Joe, get a title shot, lose, and be a top heel in the company that should never win the world title. Then he can settle in the DMC division and kick it. You know what? I agree with that. He could. What we need in this company is more like heels for Joe Hendry, because We ain't got any. We don't. And if when we get to the end of the episode and we talk about the big match at Sacrifice, you're gonna understand why I'm saying that. There are no heels for him to feud with. So maybe Elijah, we can get to that point coming up at Sacrifice. For him to, because look, I like Kazarian, not a main eventer. Okay. And he's great. I honestly, if Kazarian versus Hendry was the main event at Sacrifice, I'd be fine with that. Kazarian versus Hendry at main event Rebellion, that would not fly. Although I think that's very possible because they're in LA. I just don't see it. Okay. Josh, please don't give him the belt. Give him the digital media belt. Yep. Elijah versus AJ Francis on pay-per-view. Imagine. I bet Francis could get that match over.